Billionaires are using a little bit of cash to skyrocket their income. $1.6 billion, one of the largest donations ever made to a political nonprofit. The recipient, Marble Freedom Trust. The ringleader, Leonard Leo, longtime executive at the Federalist Society, a powerful network of lawyers in America.
You know, Leonard, since you're the number 3 most powerful person in the world, we have to
He was kind of joking, kind of not. This donation's gotten a lot of media attention because of its size, but it's really just one example of a much larger issue, one that affects everyone, rich and poor, Democrat and Republican. Let's understand how billionaires are buying laws in America and what we can learn from them to use in our own lives. Money and politics have always been intertwined, but the amount of corporate money funneled into political campaigns has grown exponentially in the last decade. The turning point was a Supreme Court decision, Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission. In this 2010 decision, the court concluded that a statute prohibiting the use of corporate money in elections, a ban that was enacted all the way back in 1909, was unconstitutional. The argument was based on the idea that donating money is a form of speech, and to place any sort of ban on donations was in effect a suppression of free speech. Now, I love the First Amendment, but you do have to admit, it does get people out of some sticky situations occasionally. This was a political project that was pursued for many years, both championed and underwritten by a whole lot of powerful corporations. Citizens United was closely affiliated with the billionaire Koch brothers, who run their own political advocacy group, Americans for Prosperity. And guess what? It worked. The court ruled in favor of Citizens United, and money started to flow into politics at a size and scale we've never before seen. Now hold up, because not all money in politics is the same. The first is hard money. This money is donated directly to a political campaign. With hard money, every donation is monitored by the Federal Election Committee. They place very strict limitations on how much a donor can contribute per candidate and per election cycle. Breaking any of these rules is a violation of campaign finance law and can result in hefty fines or even jail time. But millionaires and billionaires aren't going to let some pesky rules get in the way of their money. So they found a loophole. And this is America after all. All it takes is a little extra money and some elbow grease. The result is soft money. Soft money is money not donated directly to a political campaign, but rather indirectly donated to various politically active nonprofits. Because it isn't directly going to a candidate, soft money has no federal limits. It can come from individual donors, political action committees, or thanks to the Citizens United decision, corporations. And when the original source of soft money becomes difficult to track down, that's when it becomes dark money. To be clear, that $1.6 billion donation isn't dark. It was actually pretty easily traced back to Bear Seed and electronics mogul. But a lot of the money that flows through politics these days is coming from sources that do not want their name revealed. There are a number of different types of organizations that traffic this sort of money, but let's focus on the most common. A 501c4 is known as a social welfare organization. The majority of soft money in politics travels through a 501c4. The Marble Freedom Trust is one of these. A 501c4 is a category of nonprofit that are, by definition, built to fund, quote, the common good and general welfare. What constitutes common good and general welfare is, of course, very much up for debate. The National Rifle Association is a 501c4, and so is Planned Parenthood. Now here's the key. Social welfare organizations are allowed to use some of their funds for direct political action, so long as they follow one stipulation. Politics can't be their primary activity. And that, my friends, is what's known as loophole number 2. Because the word primary in this case is just as subjective as the phrases common good and general welfare. Before we get into exactly what happens to this $1.6 billion after it's donated to the Marble Freedom Trust, there's one more thing we need to note. This particular donation is coming from a right-wing donor. It was donated to a right-wing organization, and it's going to be going towards right-wing causes. And it does feel like most of the news around dark money is focused pretty firmly on the Republican side. And it is true that in the years directly following Citizens United, conservative groups were by far the biggest spenders of corporate money, and Democrats made a meal out of attacking them for it. But it turns out it's only bad when they're not the ones benefiting from it, because more recently Democrats started catching up, and in 2020 they actually surpassed Republicans in these questionable donation dollars. More than $320 million of dark money helped boost Democrats in the White House and congressional races, with $132 million in anonymous donations going directly to Biden's campaign. This is far more than the anonymous dollars Republicans received. So it's important to understand, this isn't a left versus right issue. It's a systemic issue where no one is innocent. The left-wing group Democracy 21 basically summed up the party's position here. This is a rotten system. but as long as it exists, both parties are going to use it. Now let's talk about how the system actually works, because that initial donation to a 501c4 nonprofit is just the first step. Remember that video that we all saw in school about how a bill becomes law? It's a bit outdated. Here's a more modern version. How giant sums of anonymous, untraceable money become law. Say you're a billionaire. You wake up next to your girlfriend, wife's in the other room, assistant hands you an espresso. Life's pretty good. It could be better. I mean, your buddy has 2 super yachts. That'd be nice to get. But you want something even more valuable. Power. However much money you donate, you expect to get paid back many times over in control and wealth. So whatever you're after, you want to donate. You want it big enough to make a difference. You want it done in the smoothest, least taxable way possible. You want it while remaining anonymous. But we don't need to imagine you're donating $1.6 billion. That's crazy. It can be something much more reasonable. Let's say 10 million. You might initially donate that all to one group, like Marble Freedom Trust, or you may spread it among multiple different nonprofits. If you're trying to keep a low profile, spreading it out's the way to go. However, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because it all ends up in the same place. There's also different ways of making this donation. The 1.6 billion came in the form of 100% stock in a privately held company, which Marble Freedom immediately sold to another company, allowing them to pocket the money and allowing the donor to pay far less in tax. I'm sure your accountant will have some ideas on how you can pay fewer taxes on your donation as well. After all, you're trying to use this money for political purposes. You don't want the government getting any. Eventually, your 10 million is fully donated. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because in many cases, these nonprofits will take your money, use it to create grants, and then begin distributing these grants to each other. This whole network of nonprofits, again on both sides, spend a huge amount of time creating and accepting grants from one another. They're basically just passing the same money back and forth like a billion-dollar game of hot potato. Why? Well, there's 2 reasons. The first, every time a grant transfers from one nonprofit to another, this counts as non-political spending. And that's how, when they file their taxes, they're able to demonstrate that more than 50% of their spending went to non-political activity, even though a lot of this activity is just passing the same money back and forth. Clever, right? It's kind of like a pyramid scheme, except nobody loses. Or maybe everybody loses. I'm not really sure. The second reason is money gets passed around. As your money moves back and forth between these nonprofits, it gets mixed with all sorts of other people's monies until eventually the original source of that $10 million, you, has pretty much completely been obscured. Just think about how drug dealers launder their cash through various shell corporations and legit businesses in order to hide where it came from. Just like that, except, legal. Now, eventually your money will find its way to the groups that can actually deploy it for political purposes. A small amount of it might go to an actual campaign, but far more often it'll end up with an independent expenditure committee, also known as a super PAC. Unlike political campaigns, super PACs have no limitations on how much they can receive or spend. Granted, they are required to disclose the source of their donations, but after the money itself is passed through so many different nonprofits and shell corporations, what does the final source really say about you? Nothing. Super PACs will deploy your money in all sorts of ways, including a barrage of political advertising. Now, by law, these ads can't explicitly support one candidate, so instead they're defined as educational.
Then Mr. Trump said, "You're fired." I love that part.
And you can go ahead and add educational to that list we have alongside primary activity, common good, and general welfare. But now, at last, after its long, arduous journey, your money is actually being utilized on the ground, deployed by seasoned political operatives. Voters will be persuaded, and they'll have no idea the role you played in persuading them. They won't even know who you are. No one will know. No one, that is, except the one person you want to be aware. The candidate. And if everything works out, the candidate will soon become an elected politician. And now you have a person in power who owes you. And there you have it. You didn't break any laws, you didn't even get any bad publicity, but you have successfully transformed money into power. What are you going to do with your newfound power? That's up to you. After all, it's your world. We're just living in it. Now, when you hear it all laid out like this, you might wonder who, besides the multimillionaires and billionaires themselves, actually support this. And the answer is no one. This is an issue that transcends party lines. Everyone agrees it's pretty bad. And yet, at least so far, nothing's changing. There have been attempts at legislative solutions, including the Disclose Act in Congress last year, which advanced to the Senate but didn't have enough votes there to pass. Earlier this year, the New Yorker obtained a recorded phone call between reps from several major conservative nonprofits and a policy advisor to Senator Mitch McConnell. On this call, they admitted any sort of public advocacy campaign for these dark donations was essentially useless. As it turns out, the position billionaires should be able to buy elections isn't one that anyone is willing to get behind. So there's really no point in trying to get the public on their side. But what they can do, of course, is convince politicians to vote against any blocking legislation. Because if they do block this stuff, that means they lose access to, you guessed it, the very same money. Ironic, right? And it's not just the politicians pushing back against blocking mega donations. Places like the National Association of Broadcasters, who make a fortune every election off of all of those educational ads produced by super PACs, has come out against any changes when it comes to political spending as well. The Supreme Court decision that allowed all of this was a bit of a Pandora's box. It cracked open and the money just started flowing out. And man, once that money's flowing and people are getting rich, good luck shutting the box. Now, there's one major thing we can all do as individuals, and that's wise up. We live in an age of rampant disinformation where the real meaning behind everything you see is constantly obscured. The rise of secretive dark money in politics is just one more symptom of that. So when you read any political message, whether you agree with it or not, it's important to question it. Why am I seeing this? Who might be benefiting from this particular message? Understanding the true intentions will keep you from being manipulated. And I think in all this, there's a lesson we can learn from the rich and powerful. Hopefully this isn't taken the wrong way, but the powerful just do. They bend the rules and attack what they want. And guess what? The world just lets that happen. Use that to your advantage. When you're trying to accomplish something, remember that you can bend the rules a little bit. And I'm not talking about breaking laws or hurting people or even being unethical. I'm talking about whenever you're trying to do something big or something new, people and systems will try to slow you down and try to stop you. All I'm saying is push the limits a little bit. It works for the billionaires.